The Kardashians just called Meghan Markle a liar on a podcast heard by millions, and they did it with perfectly rehearsed smiles and barely contained laughter. Kim and Khloé sat down for what appeared to be a casual podcast chat, but what they delivered was nothing short of a masterclass in celebrity warfare. These two women, who have survived scandals that would bury anyone else in Hollywood, just casually demolished every excuse Harry and Meghan have been peddling about that infamous birthday party photo debacle. And folks, when the family famous for calculated drama thinks you are too messy to associate with, you have a serious problem on your hands. Let me set the stage for you. This whole controversy started at Kris Jenner's birthday party back in November, when photos emerged of Harry and Meghan posing with various Kardashian family members. The Sussexes immediately went into damage control mode, demanding the photos be taken down and spinning a tale about consent forms and unauthorized posting. For months, their version of events went largely unchallenged, until now, because Kim and Khloé just blew their entire narrative to smithereens with one simple revelation. They were explicitly told it was totally cool to post those photos. Khloé's delivery was particularly devastating. When discussing what photos they chose to share, she could barely contain her laughter while mentioning they only posted dignified photos. Dignified. Let that word sink in for a moment. The implication dripping from that single word was unmistakable. The Kardashians have other photos from that night. Photos that are apparently far less dignified. Photos they chose not to release. Sources close to the family suggest these images would be significantly more embarrassing for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And the fact that Kim and Khloé mentioned this on air was not accidental. That was a warning shot. That was the Kardashians letting Harry and Meghan know exactly what kind of ammunition they are sitting on. But here is where this gets truly explosive. The sisters confirmed what many had suspected all along. The frantic takedown request only came after Harry and Meghan realized the photos were posted on Remembrance Sunday. This is the day Harry supposedly champions as a veterans advocate. This is his entire brand. And yet, according to the Kardashians, the couple had to be reminded what day it was before they understood why the optics were so catastrophic. One insider put it bluntly after watching the interview: "They are confirming the Sussexes lied, period. There is no other way to interpret this." The podcast appearance was strategic in its delivery. Kim and Khloé made absolutely certain to emphasize that the sweet friendship is between their mother Kris and Meghan. Not them. They want zero connection to this chaos. And when two of the most media-savvy women on the planet go out of their way to distance themselves from you, that tells you everything you need to know about your standing in Hollywood right now. This was not some spontaneous conversation where the Kardashian sisters accidentally revealed too much. Every single word Kim and Khloé spoke during that podcast interview was calculated, rehearsed, and designed for maximum impact. These women have spent decades navigating media controversies and building an empire worth billions of dollars. They know exactly how to destroy someone while maintaining plausible deniability. And that is precisely what they did to Meghan Markle with surgical precision. Watch the interview closely and you will notice Kim's eye rolls. They were subtle, they were brief, but they were absolutely intentional. When discussing the Sussex photo situation, Kim's physical reactions spoke volumes more than her carefully worded responses. Khloé's emphasis on the word dignified was delivered with timing that any comedian would envy. These are not women who accidentally throw shade. Every gesture, every inflection, every pause was chosen specifically to convey a message without technically saying anything actionable. The sisters were very careful to frame any existing relationship as belonging solely to their mother. One industry observer noted that the Kardashians are expert at creating separation while appearing cordial. They effectively said Meghan is our mother's friend, not ours, without being openly hostile. And that distinction matters enormously in Hollywood circles. It signals to everyone watching that the younger Kardashian generation wants nothing to do with whatever mess the Sussexes are creating. That is a massive red flag for anyone considering working with Harry and Meghan. Sources close to the Kardashian family paint an even more revealing picture of what happened behind the scenes. According to these insiders, the daughters were never particularly fans of Meghan in the first place. The relationship was always primarily between Kris Jenner and the Duchess, with Meghan allegedly cultivating the family matriarch for access to the Kardashian empire's business connections and potential investment opportunities. Kim, Khloé, Kourtney, and Kendall apparently tolerated Meghan's presence at family events but never embraced her as a genuine friend. Let us be brutally honest here about what we witnessed. The Kardashians just confirmed several devastating facts on a public platform. They confirmed the photos were authorized. They confirmed the takedown was only requested after the Remembrance Sunday realization. They confirmed they have additional potentially embarrassing images they have chosen not to release. And they did all of this while smiling and appearing perfectly reasonable. It was a masterclass in the Hollywood art of the complimentary insult. What makes this particularly damaging for the Sussexes is the credibility gap it creates. The Kardashians, love them or hate them, are known for being strategic, but not for being liars. They have built their brand on controlled transparency, showing audiences their real lives while maintaining firm boundaries. When they say permission was given, industry insiders believe them, because what would they possibly gain from lying about this? The Sussexes, on the other hand, now have another incident where their version of events has been publicly contradicted by people who were actually there. The night of Kris Jenner's birthday celebration tells a story that Harry and Meghan desperately wish they could rewrite. Prince Harry walked into that party wearing a poppy on his lapel. Let me repeat that for emphasis. He was wearing a poppy, the symbol of remembrance, the emblem that honors fallen veterans. He had physically placed that flower on his jacket before attending a celebrity birthday bash on the very weekend he claims to hold sacred above all others. Earlier that exact same day, Harry had released a formal statement honoring veterans for Remembrance Day through his Arc12 Foundation channels. His team had crafted careful language about honoring the fallen, about the importance of memory, about sacrifice and service. Hours later, he was posing for photos with reality television stars at a Los Angeles mansion birthday party. The cognitive dissonance is absolutely staggering. One insider who worked the event described the contradiction as impossible to miss. He gave a speech about remembrance that morning and was taking party photos that night. Everyone noticed. The photographs themselves were not sneaky iPhone shots grabbed by opportunistic guests. These were professional images taken by a hired photographer specifically employed for the event. Harry and Meghan posed willingly, smiled broadly, and participated fully in the photo opportunities. There was no ambush. There was no deception. They knew cameras were present because cameras were supposed to be present. This was a Kardashian event. Professional photography is standard operating procedure for one of the most documented families in entertainment history. Here is where the story takes an even more interesting turn. According to sources who were present at the party, Meghan allegedly gave permission for the photos to be posted without consulting Harry first. Allow me to translate what that means. The couple who presents themselves as a united front, who supposedly make all major decisions together, apparently have completely different PR agendas operating simultaneously. Meghan wanted the glamorous Kardashian association. Harry apparently did not consider what that would look like on Remembrance weekend. They were not on the same page, and that disconnect became explosively public. The timeline is damning when you lay it out clearly. Morning of Remembrance weekend, Harry releases veteran tribute statement. Evening of the same day, Harry attends celebrity party wearing Remembrance poppy. Photos are taken with his full participation and knowledge. Photos are posted with permission allegedly given by his wife. Only then, after seeing the public reaction, does the takedown request emerge. This was not about privacy or consent. This was about damage control after they realized their poor judgment was now documented for the world to see. What makes this particularly devastating for Harry is that remembrance observance was central to his identity as a working royal. He participated in these ceremonies his entire life. He stood at the cenotaph. He honored the fallen alongside his grandmother, his father, and his brother. For him to claim he somehow forgot the significance of that weekend strains credulity beyond any reasonable limit. And the Kardashians, bless their media-savvy hearts, highlighted this absurdity by mentioning they had to Google the significance of the day to understand why the takedown was suddenly so urgent. The fabricated consent form story represents something far more serious than a simple misunderstanding or exaggeration. Harry and Meghan's camp claimed they had signed documentation specifically ticking a box indicating no permission for social media sharing. There was just one massive problem with this claim. The Kardashians never issued any such forms. This was not a he said she said situation about verbal agreements. This was the Sussexes inventing physical evidence that simply did not exist. Kim addressed this directly during the podcast interview, and her response was delivered with the confidence of someone who knows they have receipts. She explicitly stated that they communicated about what would be posted and received clear approval. No ambiguity, no confusion, no consent forms with boxes to tick, just a straightforward conversation between adults where permission was requested and granted. The Kardashian family, for all the criticism they receive, runs a tight operation. They know exactly how to document approvals and permissions. If consent forms existed, they would have them. They do not have them because there were none. Let us examine what the fabricated consent form claim was actually designed to accomplish. By inventing documentation that never existed, the Sussexes were attempting to make the Kardashians look unprofessional and disrespectful. They were essentially accusing one of the most successful entertainment empires in the world of ignoring legal agreements. They were positioning themselves as victims of a family who violated their clearly stated wishes, and they got caught. One media analyst described it as amateur hour from people who should know better. Fabricating evidence only works if you are certain the other party cannot contradict you. They picked the wrong family to try that with. The implications of this revelation extend far beyond this single incident. If Harry and Meghan are willing to invent consent forms that never existed, what else have they fabricated? What What other claims that seemed credible at the time are actually complete fabrications? Sources inside the entertainment industry are now questioning everything the couple has said publicly. One executive who previously considered working with them admitted the consent form lie changed everything for him. If they will manufacture evidence about something this minor, how can anyone trust them on anything? This was not embellishment. This was not exaggeration. This was not creative memory or differing recollections. This was the deliberate creation of fictional documentation to support a false narrative. And when you strip away all the carefully crafted PR language and reputation management spin, that is simply lying. The Kardashians exposed this lie publicly, with witnesses, on a recorded podcast that millions of people will hear. There is no walking this back. There is no spin sophisticated enough to make fabricated consent forms disappear now that Kim has publicly stated they never existed. The professional consequences of being caught in a fabrication of this magnitude are severe. Hollywood runs on relationships and trust. When you are known as someone who invents evidence and lies about business agreements, doors close very quickly, and the Kardashians did not just expose this lie to protect themselves, they exposed it on a major platform with strategic timing. That is a message being sent not just to Harry and Meghan, but to everyone in the industry who might consider working with them. Meredith Main's lasted 7 months. Let that number sink in for a moment. 7 months as the Sussexes' head of public relations before she walked away from one of the highest-profile celebrity communications jobs in the world. Her quiet resignation came shortly after the Photogate controversy erupted, and sources close to the situation reveal her departure was directly connected to what she learned during that crisis. Specifically, she believes she was deliberately misled by her own clients about those phantom consent forms. The job of a public relations professional is to manage their client's image and handle crisis communications. But that job becomes impossible when your clients are feeding you false information and expecting you to defend fabrications to the media. One communications industry veteran described the impossible position Main's found herself in. You draft statements, you coordinate responses, you put your professional reputation on the line defending your client's version of events. Then you discover they lied to you. What are you supposed to do? Stay and keep lying? Sources close to Main's paint a picture of a consummate professional who realized she had been put in an untenable position. An insider offered a brutally honest assessment. Once you realize your clients are willing to throw you under the bus with fabricated stories, you cannot keep working for them. Your reputation is your currency in this industry. Main's apparently concluded that her integrity was worth more than the Sussex paycheck, no matter how prestigious the position might appear on paper. But here is what makes this resignation even more damning. Meredith Main's was the 11th head of public relations for Harry and Meghan. 11 different communications professionals in approximately 5 years. Let me repeat that because the number deserves emphasis. 11. That is not normal turnover. That is not even high turnover. That is a category of staff departure that suggests a fundamental problem with the people doing the hiring. When you have burned through 11 PR chiefs, at some point you have to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, the common denominator is you. The pattern of professional departures from the Sussex operation is staggering in its scope. Chiefs of staff, communications directors, PR heads, foundation executives, personal assistants. The list of people who have walked away from well-paying, career-advancing positions with Harry and Meghan reads like a who's who of burned-out professionals. Industry insiders have started referring to the Sussex operation as a revolving door, and not in a complimentary way. One recruitment specialist who works in celebrity staffing admitted they now warn candidates about what they are walking into. What does it tell you when seemingly every talented professional who gets close to the Sussexes eventually leaves? When people who moved continents to work for them, who believed in their mission, who publicly supported their brand, eventually decide they cannot continue? The charitable interpretation is that Harry and Meghan have unrealistic expectations. The less charitable interpretation, the one gaining traction in industry circles, is that they are impossible clients who burn through staff while refusing to accept responsibility for the chaos they create. Meghan's is just the latest casualty in a very long line of professionals who bet on the Sussexes and lost. Remembrance Sunday is not just another day on the calendar. For the British royal family, it represents the single most sacred observance of the year. It is the day when the nation collectively pauses to honor those who gave their lives in service. The ceremony at the cenotaph, the 2 minutes of silence, the laying of wreaths. These traditions are woven into the fabric of what it means to be royal, and Harry participated in them every single year of his working royal life. This was his heritage. This was his duty. This was supposedly his passion. After leaving the royal family, Harry built his entire public brand around veterans advocacy. The Invictus Games became his signature initiative, showcasing his commitment to wounded warriors and their recovery. Every public statement, every interview, every appearance emphasized his deep personal connection to military service and veteran welfare. He has spoken emotionally about losing comrades, about the psychological toll of combat, about the importance of never forgetting those who serve. This is not peripheral to his identity. This is the core of how he has presented himself to the world. So please explain to me how this same person forgot it was Remembrance Weekend while wearing a poppy and issuing veteran statements that very same day. The excuse strains credulity to its absolute breaking point. One royal commentator offered a particularly cutting analysis. Either Harry has become so disconnected from his heritage that remembrance genuinely slipped his mind, or he knew exactly what day it was and simply did not care enough to adjust his social calendar. Neither option reflects well on him. The Kardashians inadvertently highlighted this hypocrisy by revealing they had to Google the significance of the day to understand why the photo takedown was suddenly urgent. Let that detail sink in for a moment. An American reality television family had to research British remembrance traditions because Harry apparently failed to mention anything about it. He was their guest. He was wearing the poppy. He had released the formal veteran statement that morning, and yet somehow the significance of the timing never came up in conversation until after the photos were already public and criticism was mounting. Here is what makes this especially devastating. Harry did not just fail to mention Remembrance Sunday to his hosts. He actively participated in photo opportunities that he should have known would be problematic if posted that weekend. He smiled, he posed, he wore the poppy while standing next to celebrities who had no idea what it symbolized. And then his team tried to blame the Kardashians for not knowing something Harry himself apparently never thought to explain. The audacity is breathtaking. One veteran who served alongside Harry in Afghanistan expressed his disappointment publicly. He used to be one of us. Now he parties on Remembrance Weekend and blames others for the optics. That hurts. The contrast between Harry's professed values and his actual behavior that night is impossible to reconcile. You cannot build a brand on honoring veterans while treating Remembrance Sunday as just another Saturday available for celebrity networking. You cannot claim military service defines you while prioritizing birthday parties over memorial observance. And you absolutely cannot blame other people for photographing you at an event you chose to attend on a day you supposedly hold sacred. Kim Kardashian did something remarkable during that podcast interview. She offered Meghan Markle a lifeline, a way out of the entire controversy that would have actually improved her public image. And Meghan refused to take it. Kim suggested they lean into the controversy with humor. Her proposal was almost genius in its simplicity. Stage a fake ski photo shoot together, post it publicly, then delete it, claiming no one gave permission. The internet would have gone wild. The memes would have been legendary, and Meghan would have shown a side of herself that the public desperately wants to see but never gets. This approach would have accomplished multiple objectives simultaneously. It would have humanized Meghan by showing she could laugh at herself. It would have connected her to the Kardashian brand in a positive way. It would have transformed a negative story into a viral moment of self-aware comedy, and it would have ended the controversy on her terms instead of letting it drag on for months. Kim offered this suggestion from a place of genuine media savvy. She has survived countless scandals by understanding when to lean into mockery rather than fighting it. Meghan refused, and her refusal reveals something fundamental about her approach to public life. She cannot laugh at herself. She cannot show vulnerability. She cannot admit fault or participate in her own gentle roasting. One entertainment industry consultant who has worked with numerous celebrities described this as a fatal flaw in the modern media landscape. Audiences want authenticity. They want to see celebrities being human. Meghan refuses to provide that. She wants to control every narrative, and anything that shows her as less than perfect is rejected instantly. Kim's advice, if everyone is taking it the wrong way, lean in, represents accumulated wisdom from decades of successful celebrity management. The Kardashians have turned scandals into opportunities countless times. When Kim's tape leaked, she built an empire from the attention. When family controversies threatened to overwhelm them, they address them on their show and own the narrative. They understand that fighting against public perception often makes things worse, while embracing and redirecting it can create opportunity. But this strategy requires something Meghan seems constitutionally incapable of providing: humility, the ability to admit you made a mistake, the willingness to be the butt of a joke, the understanding that perfect image control is not only impossible, but actually counterproductive in modern celebrity culture. Sources who have worked with both the Kardashians and the Sussexes describe a stark contrast in approach. The Kardashians ask, "How can we make this work for us?" The Sussexes ask, "How can we make this go away?" One approach creates opportunity. The other creates escalating conflict. Kim did not have to offer this suggestion. She could have simply addressed the consent issue and moved on. The fact that she publicly revealed she extended an olive branch and that olive branch was rejected tells its own story. It positions the Kardashians as reasonable and solution-oriented while highlighting Meghan's inflexibility. Once again, Kim demonstrated why her family has remained relevant for decades while showing exactly why the Sussexes continue to struggle with their public image. The irony of this entire situation is so thick you could cut it with a knife. A family famous for reality television, for manufactured drama, for turning their personal lives into content, handled this controversy with more dignity and sophistication than actual royalty. The Kardashians, who have been mocked and dismissed by cultural critics for decades, just gave a masterclass in crisis management, while the Duke and Duchess of Sussex flailed helplessly with fabricated consent forms and contradictory statements. Kim and Khloé are master media manipulators worth billions of dollars collectively. They did not achieve this level of success by accident or inheritance. They built their empire through strategic self-presentation, calculated controversy, and an intuitive understanding of how modern media works. When they sat down for that podcast interview, every word was chosen deliberately. Every facial expression was intentional. They know exactly how to destroy someone while maintaining plausible deniability, and that is precisely what they did. Consider the leverage the Kardashians now hold. They mentioned having the craziest, funnest photos from that night, photos they chose not to release. That statement was not casual observation. That was a message. They have ammunition. They have images that could presumably embarrass Harry and Meghan further. And by mentioning this publicly, they have essentially put the Sussexes on notice. Start another conflict with us and those photos might accidentally find their way to the tabloids. One entertainment attorney described it as a velvet threat delivered with a smile. Sources suggest the dynamic between the generations was never balanced. Meghan cultivated Kris Jenner specifically because of what the family matriarch could offer: access to business connections, potential investment opportunities, the glamour of association with the most famous family in American reality television. But the daughters, Kim, Khloé, Kourtney, and Kendall, apparently never embraced Meghan with the same warmth. They tolerated her presence, they posed for photos when asked, but they never considered her a genuine friend. The difference in how both parties handled this controversy reveals fundamental character distinctions. The Kardashians addressed the situation directly, provided their version of events clearly, and moved on while holding additional ammunition in reserve. Harry and Meghan fabricated evidence, demanded takedowns, blamed others for their own choices, and have watched the story continue for months because they refuse to let anything go. One family has learned from decades of public life how to manage controversy. The other family apparently learns nothing from repeated self-inflicted disasters. When reality television stars are demonstrating more grace, strategy, and composure than a prince and his duchess, something has gone profoundly wrong. The Kardashians have been called many things over the years, but no one has ever accused them of being bad at managing their public image. Harry and Meghan supposedly had royal training, palace media professionals, and generational experience with public life. Yet somehow the family from Calabasas is running circles around the Duke and Duchess of Montecito. Every single time Harry and Meghan have the opportunity to let a controversy die quietly, they pour gasoline on it and watch it explode. This pattern of self-destruction has become so predictable that media observers have started betting on when, not if, the Sussexes will escalate any given situation. The Photogate controversy should have been a 2-day story, maybe a week at most. Instead, here we are 3 months later still discussing it because they cannot stop relitigating their grievances publicly. The decision to challenge the Kardashians specifically represents a spectacular miscalculation. This is arguably the most powerful family in Hollywood entertainment. They have relationships across every sector of the industry. They have resources to sustain any conflict indefinitely. They have media savvy that makes most celebrities look like amateurs, and they have patience. The Kardashians have outlasted countless rivals, critics, and enemies over the years by simply waiting and letting their opponents self-destruct. Harry and Meghan walk directly into that trap. The fundamental contradiction at the heart of the Sussex brand is their insistence on living in two worlds simultaneously. They want the respect, deference, and status that comes with royal titles, but they refuse the duties, restraint, and protocol that come with those titles. They want Hollywood celebrity without Hollywood's requirement for audience approval. They want media attention on their terms while complaining about media attention they do not control. One royal biographer summarized it perfectly. They want all the privileges of royalty with none of the responsibilities, and all the freedom of celebrity with none of the humility. Look at the unforced errors that have defined their public life since leaving the royal family. There was Hatgate, where a simple headwear choice became a controversy because of how they handled criticism. There was Photogate, which should have been manageable but became a months-long debacle. There was the PR exodus that suggests internal chaos they cannot hide. There was the Netflix content that failed to resonate. There was the Spotify deal that collapsed. Each individual incident might be survivable, but the pattern, the relentless series of self-inflicted wounds, paints a picture of people who cannot get out of their own way. The entertainment industry has a long memory and a short fuse for difficult clients. Word travels fast in Hollywood about who is worth working with and who creates more problems than they solve. With each new controversy, each new conflict with powerful families, each new fabrication exposed, the Sussexes narrow their options further. They are not expanding their network, they are contracting it. They are not building goodwill, they are burning through it, and they seem completely incapable of recognizing that their approach is failing them catastrophically. The Kardashians have now publicly called Harry and Meghan liars while maintaining the thinnest veneer of politeness. They did not use that word directly, of course. They are far too media savvy for such blunt accusations. But when you state definitively that consent forms never existed after someone claimed they did, you are calling them liars. When you confirm permission was given after someone claimed it was not, you are calling them liars. The message was unmistakable to anyone paying attention, which is to say, the entire entertainment industry. Every future Sussex claim will now be examined through this lens of credibility. When they make allegations against the royal family, observers will wonder if consent forms are being fabricated again. When they share anecdotes about their experiences, journalists will ask themselves how much is actually true. When they present themselves as victims of various injustices, the question will always linger about whether this is another manufactured crisis. The currency of credibility once spent is extraordinarily difficult to earn back, and the Kardashians just helped them spend a significant amount of what remained. The timing of future revelations makes this even more precarious for Harry and Meghan. Tom Bauer, the investigative author whose book Revenge provided devastating insights into their relationship dynamics, reportedly has a sequel in the works. Relation deals have already been signed with major publications. More damaging revelations are imminent, and they will arrive in an environment where the public is already questioning Sussex truthfulness. Each new claim will be scrutinized more harshly because of what the Kardashians just exposed. What does it tell you when reality television royalty decides that actual royalty is too messy to associate with? When a family famous for manufactured drama looks at Harry and Meghan and decides they want nothing to do with that chaos. The Kardashians have embraced controversial figures throughout their history. They have maintained relationships with people the public criticize them for supporting, but they are actively distancing themselves from the Sussexes. That calculation tells you everything about where Harry and Meghan stand in Hollywood right now. The question I leave you with is simple but devastating in its implications. If the Kardashians think the Sussexes are too much trouble, who exactly in the entertainment industry is going to think differently? These are the people who know Hollywood best. These are the people with connections across every studio, every network, every production company, and every talent agency, and they have publicly signaled that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are not worth the complications they bring. That is not a recoverable position in a town built entirely on relationships and reputation. Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.